a ruler, a conqueror. He who remains.
Kang the Conqueror has entered the MCU, and let's just say he plans to stay a while.
See you soon.
Kang the Conqueror has been around for decades in the Marvel Comics. He's gone by many names and faces, and the MCU managed to exposition what Kang is all about in a matter of minutes.
Not what you were expecting,
We'll most likely be seeing variants of the time-traveling interdimensional villain appear again and again for years to come. But which versions of Kang should be the most feared due to their immense power? If there truly is another multiversal war on the way, which Kang will truly be the Conqueror? Let's find out right now.
Come on, let's talk.
This entry is not actually a version of Kang, but rather an ally who took on his namesake in order to keep Kang's empire alive. After a conflict with Eric Masterson, aka Thunderstrike, Kang was left comatose. In order to maintain the illusion, Kang's longtime ally and love interest, Ravonna Renslayer, took over the moniker, calling herself the Terminatrix. Ooh. Only a strike force known as the Anachronauts knew of Ravonna's trickery, and left her side as a result, showing what the ramifications of the truth being revealed would lead to. It's here where Ravonna showed her power and knowledge. She fought the trio, displaying duplication and force field capabilities. In the ultimate brilliant move, Ravonna brought forth Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor out of time to fight by her side, proving herself an incredible strategist. The Egyptian ruler Rama-Tut is one of the first appearances of the time-traveling conqueror, though that wouldn't be revealed for decades to come. One of his first ventures in time travel, Nathaniel Richards traveled to ancient Egypt, and his futuristic technology made the ancient Egyptians crown him pharaoh and regard him as a deity almost instantly. The Fantastic Four ventured to this time, as there was no record of it in Egyptian history, only to encounter the ruthless leader Rama-Tut, Lord of the Seven Suns. Rama-Tut wields the Ultra Diode Ray, invented in the year 3000, and he successfully uses it to drain the Fantastic Four of their powers. He was able to control their minds, putting 3 of them to work and taking Sue as his queen. It took a freed Ben Grimm back in human form to steal the ray and set the team free to ultimately defeat the ancient ruler. Due to a time stream glitch, Kang the Conqueror was split into multiple versions of himself. One version to emerge was a man by the name of Mr. Griffin. He became trapped in the 21st century, losing his ability to time travel due to a firewall in time. Instead of waiting, Mr. Griffin decided to do what Kangs do and conquer the time he found himself in. He amassed an incredible amount of power by becoming the CEO of Kang Enterprises. Most of Griffin's power stems from his ability to gather strong resources, like his acquisition of Stark Tower and all the weaponry within. And of course, his recruitment of supervillains of the time to do his bidding. Evil bidding. There are a few versions of Kang who sought to avoid his villainous future, and there are most likely no better example of this than the young Avenger Iron Lad. In his own time, a future version of himself saved young Nathaniel Richards from his school bully. Then he was showed his entire future, and unlike many other variants, he rejected it. He escaped to the past, seeking the Avengers to help him stop his future self. Returning to a time where the Avengers were destroyed, young Nathaniel broke into Stark Industries and found his fail-safe program from Vision that would form the Young Avengers. Patriot, Hulkling, and Wiccan were called upon due to their connections to other Avengers. Nathaniel re-engineered his 40th century armor to become the final member, Iron Lad. Iron Lad's armor is incredibly powerful, maintaining the original's ability to time travel and neurokinetic link with his body. He also developed many powers of Iron Man like concussive blasts and flight. Finally, he uploaded the artificial intelligence Vision into his suit, making him an unbelievably strong Avenger who for once was on the side of good. The Warp World event combined a lot of different Marvel characters into one. Emma Frost combined with Wolverine, Spider-Man with Moon Knight, and Kamala Khan aka Miss Marvel became Kamala Kang. These two powerful entities formed an incredibly strong character. With all the powers of each person, Kamala Kang had mastery over time travel, and the suit that gave Kang such strength, as well as the inhuman abilities of Miss Marvel to stretch her body. After she became enhanced by the Chronogen Mist, she gained the ability to stretch her body through space and time itself. Kamala Kang's run was short-lived, as a normal Emma Frost separated the two back into the forms they were meant to be. Thanks, Emma. Jonathan Majors has officially brought the long-awaited arrival of Kang to the MCU in the season finale of Loki Season 1. While the man simply known as He Who Remains may have seemed on the whole non-threatening, his backstory and accomplishments proved to be anything but. Based heavily on lore immortis from the comics, He Who Remains is the creator of the TVA, the victor of the first multiversal war, and the overseer of the sacred timeline. He's lasted an unbelievable amount of time, and until crossing the threshold, he knew every moment that would transpire in front of him. His defeat, if you want to call it that, only came because he essentially had grown old and bored. He offered control of the TVA over to 2 Loki variants, and did not fight back against his death even a little bit, knowing what would be the result. A master strategist and clearly successful in his endeavors, He Who Remains held the greatest power we've seen in the MCU to date. For a long time, Nathaniel Richards was believed to be a descendant of Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards. However, there is some evidence that may point to his lineage being linked to that of Victor Von Doom. Kang was a huge admirer of the Latverian leader, meeting him at several points in time. There is one alternate version of Kang the Conqueror, however, who actually became Doctor Doom. This variant was one of the absolute strongest, and he possessed all powers of Kang, infused with the armor and intelligence of Doctor Doom. He, along with 2 other powerful variants, tore the past, present, and future Avengers apart during the Kang War. The Scarlet Centurion is another one of those comic villains that wasn't revealed to be a variant of Kang until sometime after his initial debut. While he is an intimidating physical presence, the Scarlet Centurion is also an excellent example of Kang's strategic ability. He conquered the modern age, using the Avengers as his pawns. Characters like Thor and Captain America even saw him as a benevolent ruler, seeking his advice when it came to conflicts. This is how the Centurion was able to pit his Avengers against past versions of himself. He used his Ultra Diode Ray to control their minds, and ultimately, the Scarlet Centurion was deemed a failure and returned to his Rama-Tut alter ego. This is of course until several Divergent Centurions were created, which had immense power and successfully conquered their universes. These variants of Kang proved to be some of the strongest versions to exist. Lord Immortus was more of an observer most of the time. Even so, Immortus is by far one of the most powerful versions of Kang ever seen. He, time and time again, sent various powerful villains from different timelines like Ultron and Onslaught to slay the Avengers. He resides in his castle in a dimension called Limbo, which of course he conquered. He created powerful guards like Tempest, and gained control over the monster Alioth, using it to destroy his enemies. He employed classic Kang techniques like mind manipulation on Avengers like Iron Man to tear the Avengers apart time and time again. Lord Immortus appeared in the Kang Wars as one of Kang's most powerful variants, and helped disintegrate members of the Avengers from all time periods. Immortus has sometimes been an ally to the Avengers, but only to stop alternate versions of Kang the Conqueror in his quest to be the strongest of them all. As the man himself once said, there's no way for someone who has a mastery of time to lose. Kang Prime is a survivor, existing for centuries, and conquering his way through all of them, greatly deserving of his nickname. Kang has enhanced strength, electricity manipulation, and the power to crack his knuckles and summon any weapon from anywhere in the space-time continuum. His suit is extremely durable and self-sustaining, and for a long time allowed him to transfer his consciousness into a new body at the time of his death. This main version of Nathaniel Richards spent much of its time fighting other Kangs who would seek to supplant him. He used his incredible genius to form the Council of Kangs, made of 2 other variants of himself. Together, the 3 of them disintegrated countless other variants. Eventually, Kang Prime knew he would have to destroy his 2 counterparts as well. He constructed robotic versions of many powerful Kang variants, which the Council had already destroyed, and became the only Kang left standing. With now an army of robotic versions of one of the strongest Marvel villains ever to exist, Kang the Conqueror used superior mind power and knowledge of time to become the most powerful conqueror to exist in any time, dimension, or reality.